this meeting to order. This is the Minnesota Senate Transportation Committee hearing of Wednesday, March 25th, 2026. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Got a little bit jammed up, everything got pushed back a little bit by a long floor session. The time is 3:14 p.m. We're in room 1100 of the Minnesota Senate building. In accordance with the rules of the Senate, the following members will be participating remotely in today's hearing. Senator Carlson from Eagan, Senator Herr from St. Paul. A quorum is present. Some of the folks who are queued up, members and to the public, to present some of the bills higher up on the agenda, I think are caught up in other committees that are going a little bit later. So we're going to go all the way to the bottom of the agenda and hear Senator Farnsworth, Senate File 4132. He has someone here from Eveleth, who drove down, who's going to drive back yet today. So helps accommodate their schedule as well. So Senate File 4132, Senator Farnsworth. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll make this as quick as possible. Senate File 4132 simply extends the $6 million that was appropriated in 2024 from June 2027 to June 2030. And to explain the reason for that, I have Jim Foldesi, St. Louis County Director of Public Works.
Welcome. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Foldesi. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Dibble. My name is Jim Foldesi, St. Louis County Public Works Director, representing St. Louis County. Thank you, Chair Dibble and committee members, for the opportunity to testify on Senate File 4132, which is a request to modify a prior appropriation for Phase 1 of the Progress Parkway project in the city of Eveleth. The original appropriation was for $6 million to design and construct Progress Parkway from Trunk Highway 53 to Trunk Highway 37, with an expiration date of June 30, 2027. Phase 1 bids connecting Trunk Highway 53 with the school and adding a roundabout have been opened, and the project has come in under budget at $4.6 million. These funds will be expended by the original June 30, 2027 deadline. So yes, there has been progress on Progress Parkway. We are requesting that a time extension be granted to June 30, 2030, so that the remaining $1.4 million can be used on Phase 2 of this important safety and economic development project, which will complete the construction of the new alignment south to the Trunk Highway 37 intersection. Thank you for your time and consideration and the opportunity to testify. That concludes my presentation, Chair Dibble.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Foldesi. Apologies for mispronouncing your name. Members, as I understand, there is no new money per se. This is just simply moving out the availability of some already appropriated funds. All right. So I was going to ask you to just confirm for us that this is just a simple extension of an available appropriation to help complete a project. Thank you. Ms. Lloyd.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Yeah, the bill simply extends an existing appropriation. There's no new expenditure, but it still is considered a fiscal item and would have to go through the Finance Committee for that extension.
Great. Thank you. Questions, members? Senator Jasinski.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Mr. Foldesi, is there any reason, the reasons of the delays, were there reasons why it was delayed, or is it just a reason because it couldn't be built in time, or was there any requirements, or is there anything in the future that it's going to require by extending this?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Dibble. To the question, the original appropriation for $6 million was to cover the entire alignment. And as a matter of delivering the project, we chose to phase it in 2 phases. And so Phase 1 was critical to get traffic moving into the school site. And Phase 2 came along with more complications from an environmental standpoint. And therefore, we wanted to do that in a Phase 2 that will hopefully deliver in 2027 or 2028, depending on the timing of getting through all the environmental process.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you explain what the environmental process, what the difficulties were there, please?
Sure.
Mr. Foldesi.
Thank you, Chair Dibble. Essentially, there are cultural resource issues that we encountered as we were developing the alignment to the south. And so as we've worked through those issues, we've had to do some redesign and essentially extend the timeline that we originally had for delivering the project.
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you. Just some kind of concerns. I've been hearing this on kind of multiple projects running into environmental things in many projects. Obviously, that the longer it goes on, the more expensive it is. Things get more expensive. So just my concern with some of these environmental requirements that are costing these projects more money and more time. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, members, anything further? All right. Senator Farnsworth, would you like to make a motion to move your bill to finance?
Yes, I would like to move Senate File 4132 to finance.
All right. Oh, and recommended to pass.
And recommended to pass.
All right. On that motion, anything further? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Senator Farnsworth.
Thank you.
All right. I hear Senator Latz is in the room. Is that true? Oh, there he is. All right. Welcome. All right. Welcome, Senator Latz. Before you begin, I'll just ask council to help focus us on the element of Senate File 4068 that is within transportation's jurisdiction.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate File 4068 makes changes to chapters that are to sections that are in transportation's jurisdiction in sections 2 through 5.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Watson. All right, Senator Latz.
Mr. Chairman, members, Senate File 4068 is the DVS policy proposal this year. It includes a number of technical changes and changes to align the statutes properly with stuff we've done before. I'll ask Director Jean to go into detail.
So, Senator Latz, I think we have the A1 amendment, which I think actually causes Section 1 to also be within the jurisdiction. Is that true? Okay. All right. So, yes, if we can either move the A1 now, if there's no objection, it's not technically an author's amendment. Any objection to doing so? All right. So Senator Johnson Stewart moves the A1 amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. All right. Director Zhang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Pong Zhang, Director of the Driver and Vehicle Service Division. This is our DVS policy bill on the driver services side of the house. It makes two changes. One to the ignition interlock program, making some alignment changes, most notably for the abstinence look-back period, aligning that to the 20-year look-back as in other parts of the DWI portions of the law. Again, moving that from 10 to 20. It also adds some data protections to our indicators that are eligible on the driver's license cards. So that would be your mental illness indicator and your autism indicator. It makes those indicators private as well as provides some protections around sharing with federal entities. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Questions, members? All right. Seeing none. Senator Latz.
Ask for your support.
All right. So with that, Senator Johnson Stewart, would you like to move Senate File 4068 as amended, be recommended pass and referred to the Senate floor? All right. On that motion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Senator Latz.
Thank you, members.
I think I'll be seeing you later in judiciary. Can my hearing please go as quickly as this?
I'll do everything I can, Mr. Chairman, but I have other members of the committee I have less control over.
I don't think I have control over this committee, so I think we just kind of lucked out here. All right, Senator Hoffman here. Oh, there.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
All right, Senator Hoffman. We have It's Hoffman Day in transportation again.
4224 is the first one, right? What are we doing?
We have 3 bills. We can take them in whatever order you prefer. We have 4339, 4235, 4274.
So let's start with 4274. That's what we were just getting. There was an A3, but it is now an A4, Mr. Chair. If we could get somebody to move that author's amendment, I would love that.
All right, one moment.
It's not one, right?
All right, so an A4 is, we'll just wait a moment. Do you want to describe the amendment as it's being passed out, Senator Hoffman?
Yes, Mr. Chair, what we did is we had the original A3, which you all have in your packet, and after the Department of Public Safety, Legal Eagles they said, no, we need to change. So if you look at 1.3, we delete everything after harm and we insert a period. And then if you look down on 1.5, we delete everything after property and insert a period. So there were some technical changes that needed to be fixed on that, and they fixed that.
Oh, and we delete section 1.
Senator Howe can also give an update on that too, Mr. Chair.
All right, Senator Howe.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Senator Dibble, we, on the advice of Department of Public Safety, we took out section 1 and then made adjustments from there. And I'm not quite sure what the jurisdiction is of this committee, but.
All right, well, section 1 was the sole jurisdiction of the committee, so maybe this will be a very, this will be a quick hearing, so. All right, so yeah, just want to, okay, so that's an author's amendment. Senator Jasinski, would you like to move the A4?
Yes, Mr. Chair, so moved.
All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. All right, Senator Hoffman.
Mr. Chair and members, that Senate File 4274, Senator Howe and I, one of the most dangerous and rapidly escalating public safety threats we face on our roads is our individuals fleeing law enforcement in motor vehicles. And let me be clear on the outset, this bill is about saving lives, Mr. Chair. Fleeing a motor vehicle is not a victimless act. It creates immediate and unpredictable danger, not just for law enforcement, but for innocent lives, pedestrians, families, and the entire community. As reflected in this legislation, Mr. Chair, we recognize that fleeing behavior poses an actual and imminent threat of death or great bodily harm to the general public. And so you see there are 3 critical things. Of course, we clarify and strengthen the authority that police officers have in responding appropriately during high-risk pursuits. Second, it provides the clear legal structure around the intervention techniques during those pursuits. And third, it addresses the liability in a balanced and responsible way. It is about balance, Mr. Chair. And so with that, it's a response to what we're seeing on our streets today. It's measured, it's thoughtful, and it's necessary. And I respectfully ask consideration, Mr. Chair, in this public safety piece.
Great.
Senator Howe.
Senator Howe.
No, the only comment I have is I learned the hard way on this fleeing of police, and that started my military career. And I think this is a step in the right direction to make sure we continue to make our streets safe.
All right, so Senator Jasinski.
Mr. Chair, and thanks, Senator Hoffman, for bringing this forward. Just one comment on this. One of the valuable tools that we've approved in the previous years was the State Patrol helicopter, which would also assist in this, so those high-speed chases would not have to happen. We could actually watch them from above. I've spent many hours up there touring with the State Patrol, doing ride-along, and it's really a valuable tool to help this because they can actually track it from above. So I just want to thank the State Patrol for using that tool that we've gotten. I think Senator Lang and Senator Howe and myself and many others were involved in getting that approved a few years back. And again, that's just a valuable tool to help with this. So thank you, Senator Hoffman.
All right. Thank you. One moment, Senator Hoffman.
That's fine. To where? That's cool. take that. It's just a process.
It's because they don't have any jurisdiction.
Senator Jasinski.
Mr. Chair, I would recommend that we move Senate file number, what was the number? 4274 to judiciary without recommendation.
All right, Senator Hoffman, you understand how that works.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
get that.
appreciate that.
Jeff and I were just talking about
Yeah.
that because we kind of plucked that transportation piece from it, so we're good with that.
All right. All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. All right. Moving on. Thank you. Moving on, Senator Hoffman, which bill would you like to take next?
I think Senator Howe and I want to bring up the 4235.
All right. So we'll place 4235 in front of us. One moment. All right. Oh, the public safety vehicle. Yes.
Yes.
Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. This one is really the sale of public safety vehicles to the public unless any equipment or insignia that could mislead a person into believing the vehicle is a public safety vehicle is removed first. Bill is about trust. We want to make sure that Minnesotans aren't misled about who's behind the wheel simply because of how a car looks. The misuse of former law enforcement vehicles is a real and growing issue, Mr. Chair, and we must prevent people from exploiting the look of these vehicles to commit crimes or violate the public trust. This will protect the public, maintain integrity, and help prevent confusion about public safety vehicles on the road.
Thank you. Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as Senator Hoffman said, I tell you what, when you look out the door or your window and there's a vehicle in your driveway, you should have confidence, if that looks like a law enforcement vehicle, that it is a law enforcement vehicle. Because it struck me that day, and when they were in my yard, and you need to have confidence that when it looks like a duck and walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
All right. Thank you. Senator Jasinski.
Mr. Chair and Senator Howe, so I was involved with the Faribault Police when I was a member. I think this, again, I think you're putting in statute what is typically done. So don't most police departments do this? But what we're doing is just putting the practice into statute to make sure that it's done. Because I know for the Faribault Police, they do that. They take everything off and they try and reuse it as possible on other vehicles. Because again, a lot of times when you buy a police car or a law enforcement car, the most expensive part is the equipment. The car is usually the cheaper thing, and it's all the equipment that's in that or on that. So I'm glad we're putting this in statute, but making sure that this is done. So thank you, and thank you, Senator Hoffman.
Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Jasinski. It's interesting. You can go on Facebook Marketplace and purchase an old light system. You can buy. There's a group of individuals running around on the social media stuff, and they're in their vehicles, and it says not the 50 on the side. But you know what? It is absolutely. They're using those cars to speed through the traffic and turn the lights on. It's just not. It's not a good look, Senator. So thank you for those comments.
Great. Thank you. Anything further, members? All right. I also thank you for the bill for all the reasons that have already been stated. It's a great bill. So Senator Jasinski, would you like to move Senate File 4235 to Finance?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move we approve Senate File 4235 and refer to Finance Committee.
All right. Anything further? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. All right. Thank you. Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and
Senate
members,
File
and thank you, Senator
4339.
Howe, for your work on this. This next one is absolutely Senate File 4339. We have some folks coming up. It requires the electronic, thank you, Senator Howe, from operators at locating underground utilities. Unless you want to be on this bill too, that would be, It will require, Mr. Chair, operators to periodically update contact information for a person or persons locating underground utilities. There is an author's amendment, Mr. Chair, which you talk about. Sarah Pysick did an amazing job of getting all people involved to come to consensus, Mr. Chair, and this is one example of that. This A1 amendment is absolutely it's the thing that says there's peace in the valley. So if somebody could move the A1, I'd appreciate that.
All right, Senator Jasinski, would you like to move
So
the A1?
moved.
All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. All right. So we have Jake Zilmer, Jamie Fitzke, Charles Carson. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I think Jamie Fitzke and Charles Carson are available for questions. They're from CenterPoint Energy. Testimony from Jake Zilmer. Welcome.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Jake Zilmer, and I serve as a safety manager at Bituminous Roadways in Mendota Heights. I also participate in the Associated General Contractors of Minnesota Workers' Safety and Underground Utility Group. I'm here today in support of Senate File 4339, and I want to thank Senator Hoffman for his leadership. At Bituminous Roadways, our crews are working around underground utilities every day on active job sites across Minnesota. From a safety and operations standpoint, one of the challenges we face is knowing before we start digging that all utilities have responded to a locate request. That's where electronic positive response makes a difference. EPR gives our crews a real-time, clear status of whether utilities have marked their lines or require additional coordination. It eliminates guesswork in the field and allows us to streamline communication and plan work with greater confidence. The reality is, most utilities are already using this system today. This bill simply ensures that everyone is operating under the same expectations and that accurate contact information is available when we need to quickly resolve issues in the field. There is a handout in your materials that describes this national best practice further. From my perspective as a safety professional, this bill is about reducing uncertainty, improving communication, and preventing avoidable incidents before they happen. Thank you again to Senator Hoffman and the committee for your consideration of Senate File 4339. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Zilmer. Questions, members? All right. Senator Jasinski, there was a rumored amendment that was going to be offered for discussion purposes. Are you going to do that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'm going to offer this. I'm going to withdraw it, but just for discussion, I've had contact with the stakeholders from kind of both sides of this, so I want to bring it up. So the A2 amendment, I'd offer the A2.
All right. Senator Jasinski offers the A2.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. So what this addresses, it should be fairly non-controversial, but I think we need to give more time to the stakeholders to have some discussion on this. Specifically in practice, excavation currently included marine excavation, but due to the ambiguity in the statute, this amendment is designed to make sure that the water bottom as well as the regular soil is included in the definition of excavation. Additionally, it adds definitions to marine exclusion zone, submerged excavation, and submerged facilities, and clarifies the excavating and marine environments. While the intent of the amendment is to make sure everyone is working safely, we want to make sure there is no unintended consequences from this amendment, and thus I'm going to withdraw it after we have some discussion. So with that, Ms. Pissick.
All right. Welcome, and please introduce yourself for the record and proceed as you will.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. Sarah Pissick, Pissick Capital Solutions, and I represent the Associated General Contractors of Minnesota. Yes, thank you. And thank you, Senator Hoffman, for carrying the underlying bill, which we've worked hard on. As you said, we've got everybody on board with it. The stakeholders on this amendment did talk to us earlier today. It brings in a new issue about adding to the definition of excavation. It adds to that definition that doing any excavation in a water bottom would be included. Adding this language to the bill will require that when that type of excavation is done, you would have to go under the same process of filing a ticket to the Gopher State One Call system, which then creates a notification to all the utility owners or facility owners to locate if anything is located in the water bottom. And then the rest of the amendment is just all new topic that I think would be worthy of further conversation. And we don't have a position on that. We haven't seen it before, but would prefer not to have it added to this bill. So thank you for putting the issue out there to get it in front of all the stakeholders, and we'll work with them as well as I'm sure they'll work with the utility folks as well. And I don't know if the proponents want to speak to it also.
The proponent I'm aware of is shaking his head.
Okay, well, there you go. Thank you.
But he's always welcome to generate amendments for our committee. It's a speciality. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll withdraw the A2 amendment.
All right, thank you. But I do look forward to digging in and working on this some more. So, thank you. All right. So, anything further, members, on Senate File 4339? Senator Jasinski, would you like to move Senate 4339 be recommended to pass and refer to the Senate floor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since it's Senator Hoffman Day on transportation, I'd like to finalize up with asking to approve Senate File number 4339 and moving to general orders.
All right. Anything further? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members, for codifying what is typically done. I love it. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, yes, I think with your indulgence, Senator Pa, we're going to wait for Senator, oh, there he is. All right. Yes. So, okay, we will go now to, sorry, Senator Clark. Go to Senator Pa, Senate File 4075. Senator Powell, should we start with Senator Hur's amendment?
Yes.
All right,
Thank you,
Senator Hur,
Chair.
would you like to offer your amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the A8 amendment.
All right, Senator Hur offers the A8 amendment. I think that needs to be passed out. Oh, is it in our packet? All right. Oh, it came around, so it might be floating around your pile somewhere. Came around late. So Senator Ha moves the A8 amendment by explanation, and I think it's been discussed with the folks who are interested in Section 1, who are comfortable with it being now removed. It takes out Section 1. Senator Hur.
And Mr. Chair, I talked to Senator Powell about this, and also Senator Howe too. There's a job preference on that A1 amendment. It's about job preference, and there's ranking order there that I know people work hard on it, but I think if it's ranking, it should be equal to all. You know, I mean, I like to put fictional characters, for example, in The Lord of the Ring, when at the end King Aragorn tells the Hobbit, as they finish the war, said, "You bow to no one." So it should be equal, but you know, and the ranking order or the application, working application should be something that we should have done 20 years ago when these fellow, you know, my heroes were younger, and they struggle. On a personal note, my father was a ranking officer and a colonel in the Secret War in Laos, and command hundreds of soldiers, but coming here had to start again with remedial job, but he's very proud of it because his job that he make at that time was $3.50. It's like in the 70s. So, but he's very, very proud of it. And so this provision at the same time doesn't apply to my elders now who are in their 60 or in their 65 who are retiring already. And America, even though they didn't receive job preference, at least America are open to hire them to do multiple jobs, whether it's social service job or whether maintenance, janitorial job that they're very, very proud for, that carry their family to this stage of time. And so I just want to speak in a little bit about the amendment and why we decide to leave it out this time.
All right. Super. Thank you. All right. Questions, members? All in favor of the A8, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Senator Pa, before you start, this is not at all to quash your presentation of your bill, but for the purpose of our discussion after your presentation and testimony, if council could help us understand the elements of Senate File 4075 that are within the Transportation Committee jurisdiction.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, there's an appropriation to DVS here and certain requirements put on DVS around driver's licenses. So that's our jurisdiction.
Great, perfect. Thank you. Senator Pa.
Chair Dibble, I think I have another amendment here. It's the A10. Should we take that up now?
Yes. Senator Pa offers the A10 amendment. If you could describe the amendment briefly, Senator Pa.
The A10 goes over inserting a number of $141,000 into the blank space that was before that. And this is the one-time appropriation that would go to DVS to set up the SGU Veterans designation.
Great, and that is appropriated from the Driver and Vehicle Services Special Revenue Fund. All right, questions, members? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. All right, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Dibble and members. I want to first thank you so much for the opportunity to present this bill in front of you, SF 4075. The legislation before you is about acknowledging the service and sacrifice of our SGU veterans and irregular forces veterans who fought alongside the United States during the Secret War in Laos. Last year, Senator Hurd led this bill in the legislature, took an important step to establish a SGU Veterans Task Force. And so that task force met many times during the interim to work on recommendations that would come back to this body to vote on. I had the honor of chairing that task force, and over the course of those 7 months, members met, heard testimony, they reviewed historical information, and they engaged in really thoughtful discussions. And so the recommendations, which is this bill, is supported by the task force members and by the MDVA commissioner. So the bill before you today does reflect all those recommendations, including recommendations from legislators who since then have worked with us on building this bill. Mr. John Kelly from MDVA is also here and available if anyone has any questions later on. Before I continue, though, Chair Dibble, if you would allow, I would love to just take a brief moment to recognize the SGU veterans who are here and ask them to stand so that you all know who they are.
All right. Please stand so that we can recognize you. So we're so happy that you're here. I will allow applause, everyone.
All right.
We appreciate you and we appreciate your service, and we're so happy that you're part of Minnesota. Senator Pa.
Thank you, Chair Dibble, for that. I really appreciate that. The members and the heroes here today, they really are the people that we're discussing today as we talk about this bill. They fought heroically alongside American forces. They carried out missions that required courage, loyalty, and extraordinary sacrifices. Yet for many years, their contributions have not received the recognition that it deserves. And this bill is a step forward in finally making sure that we recognize them. So, Chair, I do have 2 testifiers today.
All right. Welcome to the committee, gentlemen. Whoever would like to start, please introduce yourself and then proceed as you see fit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee of the members for giving me the opportunity to ask for your support of our bill, SF 4075. My name is Sa Vang. I was a former lieutenant and the executive director of the SGU. I was recruited by the CIA to fight the secret war in Laos against the communist forces. Our structure in Laos was set up to be group mobile. Each GM has a CIA field officer with an interpreter. Our assignment were to protect the military radar, scout the movement of the North Vietnamese army that will travel to South Vietnam, hit and run the NVA's preparation that will make their way to the South and rescue any downed American pilots. etc. Over the course of the fighting, this war, we lost more than 35,000 of our HU soldiers and on behalf of the United States. Since last year to today, when we began this bill, more than 20 of our Minnesota HU members have already died without any honor or funeral benefit or transportation benefit, and advocating for this bill. We are here again simply to ask for your support and vote yes for this limited veteran benefit so our aging veterans could feel proud of their service to this great nation and have some pride, dignity, and self-esteem as veterans. Please vote yes on this bill so that when I pass away or we pass away as veterans, I can know that you stood up, did the right thing for our veterans and families. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for consideration with the members of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Major. Appreciate your being here and your testimony and your sacrifice and service. Thank you. Senator Pa?
One
All
more.
right. Lieutenant.
My name is Reverend Getuli. Distinguished guests, chair and committee members, I am Reverend Getuli, or Major Getuli, codename Husky. In my 14-year service as a major officer and forward air guide, field operation operation officer, I was privileged to fight alongside my HU soldiers, numerous courage, Hmong, Lao, and American CIA heroes, conducting perilous mission to rescue personnel and guiding air bomber in Laos and along Ho Chi Minh Trail. I was wounded, survived 2 plane crashes. I firmly believe that the ultimate sacrifice of over 35,000 among HU would save countless of the American soldiers in Vietnam. I'd like to quote from an Air Force retired Brigadier General Harry Enderhall's speech on loyalty and sacrifice of the Hmong HGU. He said more than 30 years ago, in the fall of the 60s, first I met General Vang Pao and some of his Lao Hmong leaders in Padong. We drank and fought a powerful rice whiskey with Mr. Bell, take about forthcoming supply of weapons and ammunition for the Lao Hmong guerrilla, assist them to fight against the communists in Laos. An agreement was reached. Vang Pao organized and led the Hmong against the communists. So next 14 years, these violent people, supported by the United States, every request. They sacrificed hundreds of their young, brave, and in the belief that the United States of America would stay on the course until final victory. Remember, in the 1960s, the Lao Hmong had success with tying down thousands of North Vietnam best soldiers in military region 2. Long Chang, Siêng Khoang province of Laos. The result in the United States taking this far fewer casualties in Vietnam. How many of you out there who fought and drunk with the Laotian or the Lao Hmong, place your support to them. Tie the string on their wrist, making you eternal brothers. How many of you have ever looked back to see what was happened or what had happened to your loyal allies? Very few. Many of the thousands of CIA State Department, Air American, Control Air, Continental Air, Bird Air, Commandos, Special Force, all representatives here today have concerned themselves with the brave Lao Hmong, but it's not too late. Although we fail to keep our promise to the Lao Hmong people, we must now take a responsibility and provide support for those who risk everything for our cause. I seek your support in resetting this long overdue obligate and urge our government to provide necessary support. Mr. Chair and committee, it is now worthy that many HU veterans of the Secret War in Laos are absent today, because the significant number of these courageous individuals who fought alongside American force are no longer with us, having been taken by time. Sadly, they did not receive the recognition they deserve, and they deserve from the American government for their sacrifice made by the time of duty. I, as a part of the HU Advisory Task Force, I support the recommendation that HU should be entitled to the veterans' benefit, and kindly request your backing in fulfilling this obligation. Thank you.
Thank you, Major. Thank you so much for your testimony. Thank you for your emotion and your strong feelings, and we share those, and we regret that it's taken this long, but we thank you for your service, and we hope that we can remedy our past failure and honor the memory of those who weren't able to be here with us in time for this. So thank you very much, and thank you for your service. Members, we have questions. Start with Senator Hemmingson-Yager.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Senator Pa, for continuing this work. I was really honored to be the co-vice chair of the Veterans Committee back in the House, and where we were able to establish this task force and start the full recognition of our SGU veterans. So I'm just really excited that I get to kind of follow it along and continue my support in this capacity. And just thank you so much for your service. Thank you for continuing this work, and thank you for this bill.
Thank you.
All right, members. We do have a fiscal note. It's not in your packet. It is posted on the website. Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Herr.
Chair Dibble, I just want to thank Senator Pa for her leadership and having a work group composition on this bill during the summer. And it takes a lot of time to get to this far with, I assume, bipartisan and citizen support. And so this is a recommendation from the work group, not a solely legislation, but it's a recommendation. And Senator Pa, thank you for your time and effort for recognizing our elders in the Hmong community and the Lao community and all those allies who serve in the secret war in Laos that has been covert operation for the longest time. So thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. When the time comes, we'll have you make the motion, Senator Herr. So, but not quite yet. We want to hear just a little bit about the fiscal note. Of course, it's reflected in the amendment that Senator Pa had us add. Just high-level overview of the costs. Senator, Ms. Boyd.
Mr. Chair and committee members, thank you. The fiscal note for the DPS section of the bill is pretty consistent for adding an indicator to a license. As we heard in Senator Pratt's bill the other day, similarly for that indicator, the total cost would be one time of $141,000 from the DVS operating account, and that is to cover the third-party vendor contract that prints the driver's licenses. That would be an amendment costing $130,000, and then a change to forms of driver license and ID applications, and that would be about $11,000 one-time change, and then some MinDrive programming costs that would be absorbed by the department.
Thank you. All right. And like I said, the fiscal note is at the committee website, not in your packets. All right. Anything further, members? All right. Ready for a motion, Senator Herr. And we'll refer this to finance.
Mr. Chair, and please help me with the language. I'm trying to ad-lib as much as possible to make it correct.
All right, so Senator Herr moves that Senate File 4075 be recommended to pass as amended and be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Okay, so move.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Senator Pop.
Thank you.
so much. Thank you,
Thank you.
members.
Thank you. Thank you all very much for being here. Thank you for your service for our freedom. All right, so moving on to Senator Clark. Senator Clark, Senate File 3959.
Thank you, Chair Dibble. Yes, I present to you Senate File 3959. This bill makes targeted, practical updates to strengthen the Minnesota's address confidentiality program called Safe at Home. Just for a bit of structure and where we've been, in the other body, this is carried by Representative Nash, who's in part inspired by a story that a constituent shared. Before this committee, I've been in judiciary. I'm here in transportation, obviously, and sections 7 and 8, I believe, are in your jurisdiction, but Mr. Watson will happily confirm that, hopefully, and then I'll be on to state and local government. So the Safe at Home program allows Minnesota to protect participants who rely on the services for their safety, and this bill makes a couple of changes to improve that. As a reminder, Safe at Home helps people who fear their safety, often survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking, but also those who have professional safety concerns, keep their real address confidential. Participants are given a P.O. box to use as their legal address, which must be accepted by public and private entities, so they do not need to disclose where they live. The program forwards participants first-class mail and accepts service of process on their behalf while securely protecting their actual address. So why am I here? Sections 7 and 8 are in the jurisdiction of this committee. The sections seek to reduce the barriers for participants by allowing Safe at Home participant cards issued by the Office of the Secretary of State to be used as proof of residency for driver's licenses and real IDs. States across the country allow for address confidentiality service cards to be utilized in this way. Many do it through a memo of understanding, but because proofs of residence are in statute here in Minnesota, we're making the change in statute here as well. This is a straightforward update that allows documentation the Department of Public Safety deputy registrars already handle to be used for the purpose of proof of residency. I have staff from the Secretary of State's office here with me to answer any questions.
All right, well, welcome. You're just here to answer questions. Okay, great. Questions, members? Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a very brief question. It has to do with the deputy registrars. Are they on board with all of this? I would assume so, but we just want to hear.
Senator Clark.
Thank you, Chair Dibble. The Secretary of State's office has been on a robust tour of getting all stakeholders on board, and they are also on board.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything further, members? All right, Senator Clark, do you know that you need a referral to state and local? We were just checking into that.
Senator Dibble, Chair Dibble, yes, and I am on their agenda for Friday.
I see. All right, very good. Senator Johnson Stewart, would you like to move the approval of Senate File Number 3959 and its referral to state and local? All right. I didn't quite express that the way I usually do, but the minute taker knows what I meant. All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair.
All right. Yeah, just gotta organize myself here. Yeah. That'd be great. Oh, I don't. No, thanks.
I'm getting rid of some of this stuff. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Senator Dibble. To your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Madam Chair, before we vote, I would just on it, of course, because it's a substantial change. I'll just move Amendment A5 to Senate File 4618 to put it before us.
Senator Dibble moves the A5. Do I have to do anything? Okay. So to the A5. Wait, we have to vote on it.
Why don't I explain it before we vote on it?
Okay, that sounds perfect.
All right, very good. So Madam Chair and members, the A5 amendment, the goal, as I had indicated when we heard the three bills on this subject of autonomous vehicles last week, was to try to create a synthesis of those three bills, and I think we've successfully done so. What the A5 amendment does is to create a phased approach in implementing and authorizing autonomous vehicles and autonomous vehicle fleets for commercial purposes in Minnesota. So it prohibits commercial deployment until a formal study is completed. That's something you would recognize from Senator May Quaid's bill. And at the same time, it builds out a full permitting and regulatory system in advance. And once the study is complete, deployment can proceed under that system. Under the permitting framework, it has the annual permit application, the detailed disclosures about vehicles and operations, a first responder interaction plan, independent safety verification, and enforcement authority, which would include suspension and revocation in certain instances of accidents and mishaps and malfunction. So that, of course, would be a blend of approaches from Senator Johnson Stewart's bill as well as mine, except, of course, the safety verification would be independent. It brings over the advisory process from Senate File 4381 into a task force to study the impacts, particularly on workers and communities. It expands and strengthens on that, and it makes it a little more broad with representatives from labor and other stakeholder groups, the MAC. It does include representation from both majority and minority legislative appointees. It requires a comprehensive study covering workforce, economic safety, infrastructure, and accessibility impacts, like in Senator Aaron McQuaid's bill. It requires public hearings and public comment periods. And its findings are designed to directly inform whether and how permits should be issued. A permit should be issued. It is a little different in that it's not a standing committee that continues on in perpetuity, but it is to inform and ultimately satisfy the question of whether or not autonomous vehicles should exist. We'll have some amendments on this as well in just a little bit that will also continue to strengthen the role of the advisory committee. On labor and economic impacts, it does require the full economic and workforce impact study and allows the state to enact mitigation measures that's based on those findings, whether those are worker impact fees or conditions to address displacement. On safety, which I touched on a little bit earlier, but just to be a little more explicit, it again is a synthesis of Senator John, your bill, Madam Chair, and my bill. It does require the independent third-party validation of system performance, requirements for safe operation in Minnesota conditions, requirement of the first responder interaction plans with detailed requirements, continues to require the incident reporting, crashes, near misses, disengagements, and requires public transparency through reporting on all of those. It does retain the similar language between Senate File 4010 and Senate File 4618 on compliance with traffic laws and federal vehicle safety certification. In terms of creating the networks, the basic structure, it again combines a lot of the elements of the two bills from Senate 4010 and 4618 of an app-based prearranged service with consumer-facing requirements of fair transparency, receipts, et cetera, but also picks up the requirements around equity, serving all neighborhoods, not just profitable ones, accessibility obligations, integration with public transit, operational oversight, and enforcement. It maintains a strong local government role, and as I had indicated, something I feel very strongly about in several different ways. It requires a municipal review of traffic studies and requires the commissioner to consider local input in decision-making and preserves local authority to regulate operations. I did look, and we'll have some discussion about that. I think Senator Jasinski is interested in that subject, how exactly we treat and regulate the TNC services, Lyft and Uber, as well as taxis. It, as proposed in 4618, it largely emulates how we regulate at the local level with permitting and fees, et cetera. So there is, somewhat of a layered governance system. The state does permit both the vehicles and then has a permitting structure around allowing for fleets to proceed, but then leaves it to states and local to regulate on the elements that they are best suited to regulate on through permitting and other sorts of regulatory requirements. And so that is the high-level overview of the synthesized bill, Madam Chair. If we'd like a walkthrough, we can do that. I would ask council to help me with that if that's what we want. Otherwise, I'm happy to turn to questions, amendments, or debate.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. I'm supposed to call you Senator Dibble when you're there, right?
You can call me anything you want.
Okay.
Just don't call me late for dinner.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Thanks for all your hard work. I know you've put hours and hours of time and expertise into this bill, and I appreciate the comprehensiveness of the A5, so thank you. Members, does anyone have questions? Senator Jasinski first.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Dibble. Thanks for all your work, and I do appreciate it. I met with you in your office yesterday, and we talked about some of the changes and some of my concerns. Obviously, a couple of my big ones is that any municipality couldn't outlaw or refrain these guys from the automated vehicles from coming. So I'll address that a little bit. And then the person in the vehicle was another concern of mine, because I don't think that'll be feasible. And there was a couple others, I can't remember right off the top of my head, but So there's a couple things that are a concern to me, that if this will ever work or not, because I don't want to say death by regulation, but it appears there's a lot of regulations here. And my frustration is that the companies are just going to pick up and go to another state because there's so many regulations in here. So that's some of my concerns, but I do appreciate you meeting with me. A little bit frustrated. I know we're under a time schedule and we got deadlines, but to get the amendment, and you shared it with me late last night, but to get public just today, it's a big bill, lots of complicated things. A lot of the stakeholders haven't had a great time to digest a lot of it. I know we've been talking about it for a while, so just a little bit of frustration there, but I understand all the things that are moving parts that are in this. So just one other question. Do you know the path in the House of where this is at? Is there a companion bill to this, or what's the process, how you foresee this going through? Because I think there's some different bills in the House, and there's nothing that aligns with this. So what's the process to get this either across the finish line or the next level?
Senator Dibble.
Great. Thank you, Senator Jasinski. You are correct. This bill does have a companion. However, to say that, well, to be honest with you, I'm a little bit confused. Maybe someone knows more about what has happened in the House and whether or not a bill is even moving. It feels like, I know I get a different report every day that they're stalled, or one bill has moved, other bill. So I can't answer fully. The companion, but I do know the companion to this bill hasn't moved out of committee. I'm not super sure if anything has moved out of committee or not. And so, and also, just in, as long as we're on the subject, even this bill is, I think implicates 2 or 3 other committees here in the Senate. So we're going to have some conversation about if, I think it does have a fiscal note, so there is some fiscal elements. So, I don't know that we necessarily need to meet first and second committee deadline, but we would definitely need to pick up the pace a little to get to those other 2 or 3 committees by third committee deadline, because once we get back from break, that's like a week and a half. So, but we always figure out how to match things up even when the bills are not companion bills per se. So where there's a will, there's a way. I don't know if that was a responsive response to you or not.
Senator Jasinski, do you have a follow-up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, thank you, Senator Dibble. And again, I continue to appreciate our good working relationship and continue for it. Again, just my frustration, it just seems like there's so many things in this and so many regulations that it appears that it's going to be difficult for a company to come here and do this. And I know we got some deadlines coming up. But so with that, I have a few amendments. Maybe some will be considered friendly, some will not. I'll do a couple with roll call, and then a couple of just you're not a friendly. We'll just move on and try and get out of here on time. So
very good.
With that, should we vote on the A5 first?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. Go ahead.
Should we do that? Okay.
So any other questions or comments about the A5 specifically? I know Senator Nelson's been waiting, so let's go.
Well, just a brief comment. I'm wondering if you can explain a little bit more. I thought as you were kind of describing what's in the A5, and I've been reading over it here while I've been listening, I just wanted to know, would you kind of further describe what you talked about as far as somehow making sure that the AVs are operating not just where they're profitable, but like equal access everywhere? And I just don't know how we can make a private business operate in an area where they're not profitable to stay in business. But I think there's probably more to what you said. I just might not have heard it all, and maybe you can direct me to where that part is in the A5 or explain it a little better for me.
Senator Dibble.
Certainly. So that is an idea that is similar to some requirements we've placed on Lyft and Uber, taxis, even scooters and shared bicycles, and some of these emerging, innovative, technology-driven transportation alternatives. That if we're going to come into and offer ourselves as a public good of transportation available to the public, that we're not just simply geofencing ourselves inside of districts like mine. I represent half of downtown Minneapolis, the uptown area of Minneapolis, much of southwest Minneapolis. the well-resourced area of Minneapolis. Meanwhile, you kind of exacerbate disparities and people's access to opportunities if you simply refuse to serve the parts of the city that you don't perceive wealthier people live, where there's more profit. If it's in fact a public good that's being offered on making use of the public streets, to simply say we're only going to serve Senate District 61, the wealthy downtown, uptown, and southwestern part of Minneapolis, that is not something I think that we should be contemplating.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, Senator Nelson.
Just to follow up, I think you might have, I understand the concept. I didn't understand how that might be translated, but I think you might, into action. But what I think I heard you say perhaps was the key, geofencing. You're not going, the bill would not allow geofencing just in certain areas, so the areas would be broader that would reach a particular automated.
Yes.
A CAV. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I think
Yes.
geofencing was probably the word I was looking for.
All right.
Thank
Great.
you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the A5? Members, I want to draw your attention to your packet. There are two pieces of, or two handouts that were submitted that are new since the last time we saw this bill. And we also have a fiscal note. Senator, should we go through the fiscal note before we vote on the A5, or do we vote on the A5 first?
Whatever is your pleasure, Madam Chair.
All right, let's vote on the A5, then we'll do the fiscal note, and then we'll open up to other amendments. So all in favor of adopting the A5, you already moved it, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Senator, let's move to the fiscal note.
I did leave off a key piece of information,
Okay.
so I don't want anyone to think I'm hiding the ball. It does delay, it does allow for the work of the advisory group to occur, gives them a little bit more time, and delays the effective date, if you will, until 2028.
Given that, does any member want to reconsider their vote? In full disclosure, all right, thank you, Senator Dibble. Staff, would somebody, Krista, go through the fiscal note in front of you, please?
Madam Chair and Committee, thank you. The fiscal note says Senate File 9043. It was written to the unofficial, the reviser language before it was introduced to get it started, but it's the exact language of the bill as introduced. So it does not fully cover the DE. The parts that would not be in this fiscal note would be those parts related to the advisory group and the study, but I can go through the other parts. There's 3 agencies on the bill. Under MnDOT, there is minimal staff time to investigate community complaints related to autonomous vehicle operation. That would be less than $1,000 a year of staff time, and those costs will be absorbed. Department of Commerce is also on the note. Let me skip. Oh, the administrative hearings is also on the note, but those costs are included in DPS's note, so I'll just skip to Commerce, which starts on page 11 of the fiscal note. I'll just summarize it briefly. Commerce's note specifies the need for 2 additional FTEs needed in enforcement. Also, 0.5 FTE for legal support services for the first 3 years of the program only. That would be a total of $499,000 a year from the general fund for those staff costs. And then moving to DPS's portion of the fiscal note, which is the most extensive, that starts on page 14. And under certain divisions, Office of Traffic Safety lists that they would need an additional FTE at a cost of $130,000 a year, and that would be to, let's see, related to the development of first responder interaction plan and related public education. In addition, they will assume the cost of a $200,000 contract with an outside vendor for media and communication services. So that would be a total of $330,000 a year from the general fund for the Office of Traffic Safety. Then under the Minnesota State Patrol, let's see. There would be a need for 2 additional FTEs related to inspection and the inspection and investigation role for AV violations. This would require an additional dedicated sworn FTE and a non-sworn FTE. That total would be about $319,000 a year, plus one-time $4,000 cost for tax setup for those new employees, and that would be from the Trunk Highway Fund. Further, there would be training costs because it's assumed that state troopers and commercial vehicle inspectors would be the subject matter experts for AV operations and regulations, and to allow state troopers to fully investigate crashes involving AVs, there would be one-time training costs of approximately $20,000 in fiscal year 27, and that would also be from the Trunk Highway Fund. And then under driver and vehicle services, there would be a rulemaking cost related to these new regulations. That would be a one-time cost of $320,000 in fiscal year 27. That would be paid out of the DVS operating account in the Special Revenue Fund. There would also be MnDrive programming costs for registration changes and for the permit application process. That would be, I believe, over 3 years, a total of about $1 million. And that would be absorbed in the existing MnDrive contract. So that would not be additional expenditure. Also, there would be costs absorbed related to the new website page development and dashboard related to AVs. There's also a small cost each year of about $480 for printing and mailing costs for the new AV permits. And then the development of the new permit system, the development of the system and the review procedure and all other necessary tasks for permitting would require an additional 2 FTEs. That would be about $210,000 total the first year and $204,000 each year thereafter, also paid out of the DVS operating account.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd. Does anybody have any questions about the fiscal note? Oh, one more. Yes, Ms. Boyd?
I'm sorry, I just did want to note that there's a blank in the bill for the amount of a fee for the application fee amount per vehicle. That blank is not filled in, so there will be revenue realized in later versions of the fiscal note when that blank is filled in.
All right, thank you. All right, well, I know we have many amendments, and so I guess I will just open it up to that. Senator Dibble, how do you want to start? Do you want to go lowest number first, or just whoever raises their hand?
Whoever gets to the starting gate.
I did hear Senator Jasinski allude to some amendments, so we'll turn to him. Senator Jasinski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We only have about 25, so.
Oh, good.
Just kidding.
So you'll be treating us for pizza as well?
Correct. Thank you, Madam Chair. No, we'll try and get through. I just want to bring up some concerns. Senator Dibble and I have had some of these discussions. I just want to get them on the public record here. So first of all, I'd like to offer the A6.
The A6. Members, you have all of these in your packets, as well as I think there's a few more that are coming. Senator Jasinski, to your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just abbreviate these to try and keep things moving along. The A6 would prohibit locals from banning AVs altogether in their jurisdiction, and then also prohibit local fees from adding additional permitting fees, because there are state fees. This would prevent them from adding additional fees, and that's pretty much the summary of what the A6 is.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator Jasinski, for the A6 amendment. I did, as I had assured you, look into how TNCs, Lyft and Uber, and taxis are regulated and treated, and committed to you that if in fact we were treating Waymos differently, we would try to align. I did have some conversations with folks who know more about this than I do, folks who work for the Metro Cities and League of Minnesota Cities, as well as City of Minneapolis. And what I understand is that they do, Minneapolis and St. Paul in particular, as well as the MAC, but I know that you have an exclusion for the MAC here. They do charge fees and have kind of licensing and a permit regimen. And so I would resist the A6, but with a commitment that we continue to look at this question to make sure that, that we're treating Waymo the same as we would Lyft, Uber, and taxis. This would be different from them because we do have the authority in statute, and at least, and I think Duluth does too, by the way, have a permitting, licensing, fee structure, and some of the behavioral requirements, some of the regulatory requirements for Lyft, Uber, and taxis at the local level.
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Dibble. And just remind me, and maybe Mr. Watson knew this, so on the TNCs, are they taxed per car, or is it like an annual fee for them to operate as a fleet, or however that works? Can you just talk about is it per vehicle, or is it just to operate in that jurisdiction, or how that's done? Maybe either you or Mr. Watson.
Who's going to take it?
So,
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Watson may or may not know, I do know some people are ready to come forward to help us understand a little better how taxis and TNCs are regulated at the local level.
Do you want me to bring any testifiers who wish to come forward on that issue?
They wouldn't be testifiers per se, they'd be
Helpers.
technical experts.
Are there any technical experts who'd like to come forward?
Mr. Huser is here from the city of Minneapolis.
Introduce yourself, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Steve Huser. I'm a senior government relations representative for the city of Minneapolis. My understanding of the way our ordinance works related to TNCs is that there is a fee per company that operates within the city of Minneapolis. So the two largest companies that operate in Minneapolis are Uber and Lyft, so they would pay a fee to the city related to the work that we do to enforce the ordinance.
Senator Jasinski, do you have a follow-up?
And thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Huser, for coming forward. So what's a typical fee for one of those providers in Minneapolis to operate? I just try to get a ballpark of where we're at, what the cost is, if you can, off the top of your memory, closely. It doesn't have to be to the cent, just an approximate fee.
Mr. Huser.
Madam Chair, Senator Jasinski, I don't want to throw a number out there that's like wildly off. I think I have a number in my head. There may be people in the audience that have a better handle on that from those companies that pay that fee. So I would rather defer to them to be a little more precise than to throw a number out.
There is a person coming forward. Sir, have a seat, introduce yourself, and if you have an answer to that question, please offer it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Joel Carlson. I represent Uber Technologies, and I wish I would have stayed in public safety.
That'll teach you.
Madam Chair, Minneapolis just reduced the fees that TNC pay to the city of Minneapolis. Right now, I believe our fee is $12,500 for the license fee, and we pay $10,000 as a disability access that we pay in, and that money is used to offset taxi license fees who provide more disability transportation than some of the TNCs are able to. In St. Paul, we pay $41,000 for our fee, and they're looking at reducing that fee currently because we are overpaying for the amount that it takes them to regulate these businesses. And they regulate all kinds of things that we do within the city, including background checks and vehicle inspections. They enforce where we can stage and other things that are in the city ordinances. We have ordinances in, I think, about 15 cities in the state, including Rochester, Duluth, Moorhead, St. Cloud, Mankato, and a number of others. So, and we pay different fees in each one of those cities.
So I have a follow-up. So if I live outside of Minneapolis, I live in Minnetonka, but Uber and Lyft regularly come to my house, how do they pay? Do they pay any city that they enter into, or how does that work?
So federal transportation regulates where the trip originates, and so we wouldn't, I don't believe that we have an ordinance in Minnetonka. So it's where the trip originates and not where the ultimate destination is.
Well, I certainly look forward to finding out more. Senator Jasinski, do you have more questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and just trying to keep this moving along. Again, so, that's my concern is that you have a company that it just makes it financially feasible not to operate. They have to pay a fee here, pay a fee there. So continuing on the fee discussion, so Senator Dibble, if I removed lines 1.8 through 1.12, which dealt with the fees, and we could continue to work on that, if I took that out and strike that language, would the rest of the amendment be acceptable? So again, so we don't have a hodgepodge. One city can do it, one city doesn't. And I understand Mr. Huser and Senator Dibble, and I have the comments about staging and parking, and I get all those things. But if a city just outright doesn't do it, and you're traveling through the metro and you have to go around a city to get to another one, it's a hodgepodge to me, and that makes it not feasible. So if we eliminated the fees, continue that discussion, would the A6 be considered friendly?
Senator Dibble.
Thank you. Sadly, no, Senator Jasinski, I'm sorry to say so, for a couple of reasons. One is, the preemption to prohibit the operation. I would like to understand more from the cities and the stakeholders if in fact they're thinking they want to have control whether or not autonomous vehicles operate in their cities or not. Because I think that's a fair and open discussion, and I think local democracy should be able to sort through those questions in consultation with their citizens who vote for them. I would be concerned about creating an economic advantage over other forms of transportation. So if we're going to lift the fees for Waymo, we would probably have to have a conversation about lifting them for everyone. And of course, I like 1.13 to 1.15. So if we just kept that.
Senator Jasinski, do you have a response?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senator Dibble. No, so, and again, I'll keep moving on, but again, just my concern is if these companies aren't going to come if they have a hodgepodge there. And then going back a little bit to the origination, so there's a fee to operate in that community, but the fees aren't charged when, like, for example, I ordered one in Minnetonka. That fee's already paid annually on an annual to operate there. So if Waymo or the other companies that provide the same services want to operate in the metro area to get people from one community to the other, and again, I'm concerned with the disability people. I think this is a great service for disabled people, people that can't drive. There's all kinds of things. So for a company to come in and operate in the 5-county or 7-county metro area, if one city opts out or 2 cities opt out and you're trying to get across that city, what would happen then? I mean, so you want to get to one place, and maybe Mr. Hughes would have a comment on that. How would that happen? So again, if we prove this and we have one city that opts out, let's say it's Minnetonka, and I want to get from one side over to Wayzata or whatever city you do, and you have to go through Minnetonka, would they not be able to operate then in that area? Is that the intent?
Mr. Senator Dibble.
Thanks. I'm going to answer a couple of questions. First of all, getting back to the conversation about fees and regulation, et cetera. To be honest with you, I've long been a fan of trying to create a more regional approach to taxi and or TNC service. This goes way back to when I worked for the city of Minneapolis, when I learned about the very balkanized system that we have in the metro area of how we regulate taxis, and it's just different from city to city and jurisdiction to jurisdiction. And it is a little bit of a head scratcher. So creating a more unified approach and maybe, through a regional approach to this whole conversation, we still want cities to regulate, the traffic and the conditions within their borders. That's their job. And they're, whether or not they're doing it, they're going to be held to account by their residents, and the first phone call is going to be to a city council member or mayor, so they might as well have some ability to regulate on some of the operational elements that affect their quality of life and their safety, et cetera. And so maybe if we were to create a regional fee or permitting system, and each city then would receive revenue from that to do the functional work that they need to do to enforce, that's an idea that I think we could have and maybe find a lot of commonality, maybe some resistance, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, you ask a good question, and the question you ask about whether a particular city could geofence themselves and keep, we could keep Waymos out of Minnetonka so Senator Johnson Stewart could not get a ride, does create, a question, a legitimate question of whether or not we should preempt that here today or not. Maybe that's something we can toss to the advisory task force that we have set up to work through that question and that problem.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Dibble. Senator Jasinski.
And thank you, Madam Chair. And again, so going back to the geofencing, and I understand a city, we talked about being around U.S. Bank Stadium and a Vikings game and having a geofence thing so where cars can go and address traffic issues. So I understand that totally, but I think it's going to be a concern that if you have one community, you want to get across town, you have to go around somewhere. It just is concerning me. But I'll continue with the conversation with you on that one, but that's just my concern. And then just a little bit of I've been here 10 years, and it's funny how either we talk about preemption as positive or preemption as negative, and it seems to go back and forth on different issues, and so it's a little frustrating there. Sometimes you want a preemption and sometimes you don't. Just is kind of unique to hear. So considering this and that, and this again, you want a global system here in the area. When then you start talking about preemption, then it just makes it much more complicated. But with that, I'll withdraw the A6.
All right, Senator Jasinski withdraws the A6. And I agree, Senator Dibble, I think that is a good subject for the advisory group or whatever, the working group to explore, because I think it's very complicated and difficult for us to figure out without the input of experts from all around. All right, who's got another amendment?
Madam Chair. Go to Senator Farnsworth.
Senator Farnsworth, and then Senator McEwen, and then back to Senator Jasinski. Senator Farnsworth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to offer the A10 amendment.
Senator Farnsworth offers the A10. Is it in our packet?
I believe so, Madam Chair.
All right, Senator Farnsworth. Members, the A10 is in our packet. Senator Farnsworth, to the A10.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator Dibble. This would simply remove the requirement in the bill or in the delete everything amendment that they have to serve riders without smartphones. I don't know that much about Waymo, but it seems like that's the way that you access a Waymo. You have to have a smartphone in order to open the vehicle. Makes it more safe so that if you call for a Waymo, somebody doesn't jump in and steal your ride, or somebody, potentially doesn't jump in the vehicle with you. This seems just kind of common sense, and so hopefully, I guess unless there's something I don't know about how Waymo operates, hopefully this will be a friendly amendment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Farnsworth. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Farnsworth. So the spirit of that provision, paragraph E on lines 12.20 and 12.21, is similar to the conversation we had earlier with Senator Nelson, and that is, if we have a conveyance that is, what we would consider a common carrier, is there to serve everyone and exclude no one. Not everyone has a smartphone, and so that's the idea there. I understand it would take some technological creativity. How could someone without a smartphone access a Waymo? But there are ways to do that. I have a number of different kinds of cloud databases that I sometimes need to get into, and you need a code to get into it. But you can also get a phone call instead, and then get the code given to you with a phone call, and so then you can punch in the code and then gain access to that database. And so I'm quite sure that Waymo could figure out a way to ensure that there's access for all kinds of people in our community, not just those who have the means and the wherewithal and the ability to even use a smartphone. And so that's the spirit behind that. Totally open to continuing the conversation. Maybe that's another one that we toss to the advisory committee. But the problem we're trying to solve is one of fairness and access. This is basically a public utility. This is a form of transportation that's going to be using our public streets, taking advantage of substantial public investment, and for a tremendous profit benefit. And so we need to make sure that everyone has authentic and genuine access to using it.
Thank you. Senator Farnsworth, any feedback?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair and Senator Dibble. It seems to me that people have to hail a ride somehow, either through a telephone or internet, and it's possible that there are people who don't have internet. And so we're not saying that Waymo has to provide a way to get a ride without internet, or we're not saying that people have to be able to find a ride without having a telephone, even though I am guessing there are at least 3 people somewhere between in this whole metropolitan area that don't have a telephone or don't have internet. So, but since there doesn't seem to be, at least at this time, an openness, I will withdraw the A10 amendment.
Senator Farnsworth withdraws the A10. Senator Nelson, you had a question about that? Do you still need to ask?
I just have a comment.
Go ahead, Senator
Thank
Nelson.
you, Madam Chair. Definitely understand the idea of making these available to all, whether you have a smartphone or not. As this goes to as it does perhaps go to the study committee, the one thing that I think would be important, or that I'd like to know or have that study committee talk about or look at is, okay, what would that cost? What would that cost be overall? And I'm reminded of, I don't want to go too far afield here, but I'm reminded of what we do with health insurance mandates. We mandate coverage for certain things. I've done that for certain things. I felt that needed to be covered. They were successful. But the question is, what's the cost for those mandates? And I think this would be important here as well to know what's the cost for that mandate. And I just think that's an important piece of information for the study group to look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. Senator McEwen.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, I have the make sure I get it right, the A20 amendment.
Members, the A20 amendment is in your packets. Senator McEwen, Senator McEwen offers the A20 amendment. Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment, the A5, is pretty simple. It would, on page 16, line 28 of the A5, after the word Minnesota, it would insert the words, whether a human driver should be required during commercial autonomous vehicle operations. And so I offer this today as not as a hard rule yet, although we know from the testimony on this bill that we have heard that there's a lot of concern about this and wanting to have a live person there. And this is something that I think at the very least we should ask the advisory task force to consider and to give us feedback about. So that is the A20 amendment.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Senator McEwen. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator McEwen, for the A20. So this is similar to the previous conversations. You know, there's been a suggestion that we should absolutely require human drivers at whatever point there's a determination that Waymos have sufficiently proven their safety and efficacy, et cetera, et cetera. And there's been some question about whether or not that's a good idea. I think Senator Jasinski has brought that up. And so similar to the questions that were raised earlier, we thought rather than coming down very hard on one side or the other, we would ask the committee in consultation with an expert review and stakeholders, et cetera, to take a look at that question, and to make that advice to the Department of Transportation, Department of Public Safety as they set forth the regulatory requirements and rules for permitting one of these fleets if and when there's a big, just to make note, there's another fundamental question that we've put to them, and that's the big if. I don't think it's at all concluded that, it is going to be determined to be a great idea. And so if it is determined to be advisable, under what conditions and what circumstances and what requirements, and this is one of those questions that we would want them to look at and answer for us.
So I got a little lost.
So I would say yes.
Are you okay with this?
This is a friendly amendment, yes.
All right, members, any questions about the A20?
Madam Chair.
Senator Jasinski.
So again, I voiced my concern with this. I won't beat it to death, but again, is there any other state that has automated vehicles that require a person in a driverless vehicle? Again, this makes no sense to me. I made the comment about, approving cell phones but having to have a cord on there. It just, to me, is there another state that has automated vehicles that have a requirement that you have to have a person in the driverless vehicle? Maybe someone knows?
Well,
a friend?
Does anybody know this? Senator Nelson, do you know the answer?
No, I have another question.
Senator Dibble, do you know the answer to that question?
I don't.
Actually, Madam Chair,
Senator Nelson.
I will give you the answer that I know. So in Rochester, probably a couple years ago, we had a trial automatic vehicle, like little taxi thing. And obviously, I took that, many others did. And what's really interesting about that is there was a person on there. And of course, we all felt, well, that actually they had two. I don't know why there was two people who were kind of monitoring the AV taxi. But it did seem like an incredible waste of resources. I don't know that there ever, I mean, I'm sure this committee will study this, but the brief experience was why? Why are we using those resources to keep two people monitoring an autonomous vehicle?
Any other members want to?
Madam Chair.
Senator Jasinski?
I ask for roll call.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Senator McEwen?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to note the comments and the question that have been posed by our colleagues today. I think just point to why having this be part of the study is very valuable. What we're asking them to do is tell us exactly if you decide to go forward with this, whether a human driver should be required during commercial autonomous vehicle operations. If not, why not? If yes, then why? So I support the roll call.
So Senator McEwen, just to emphasize, this is during the study. This is not requiring that a human driver be in the cabs, but whether we should study whether, in fact, somebody should be required to be during commercial autonomous vehicle operations. So again, we're voting on the amendment which would require the study to evaluate this question. Senator Dibble, do you have anything to add before I vote? All right, so we'll vote now on the A20. A roll call's been requested, so staff will take the roll.
Chair Dibble?
Yes.
Vice Chair Johnson-Stewart?
Yes.
Senator Jasinski?
No.
Senator Carlson?
Yes.
Senator Coleman?
No.
Senator Farnsworth?
No.
Senator Herr?
Yes.
Senator Hemmingson-Yager?
Yes.
Senator Lang?
No.
Senator McEwen?
Yes.
Senator Nelson?
Yes, I think it should be studied.
Members, with 7 ayes and 4 noes, the motion is adopted. What do I say? Oh, okay, great. Oh, I have to do the gavel. Okay, members, who has another amendment? I think I had a list here.
Madam
Senator
Chair.
Jasinski, you have another one?
Yes, I'd
Okay,
like
and
to-
then we'll go to Senator Hemmingson-Yager. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Senator Dibble, I'd like to offer the A7.
Senator Jasinski offers the A7, which is in your packets. Senator Jasinski, to your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The A7 would eliminate the worker impact fee and send a portion of the registration to the Workforce Development Fund. Thank you. Sorry about that.
All right, Senator Dibble, when you have a minute, you can respond to the A7.
Yep. Moment. Oh, I see.
Okay. Yeah, Madam Chair, I would resist the A7. I myself will be a no vote, and just because I think, we should be just very cognizant and very focused on the level of impact that this is going to have on the lives and livelihoods of tens of thousands of people we have. We don't know exactly what the impact would be, and so that's the reason for the study, if you will, on page 13, subdivision 11. we're asking them to take a look at and see what exactly will be the effect and the impact, and ask for a company that's going to come in, like I said before, use public resources, use the public streets, be a basic, another form of transportation, a utility, a common carrier, and rather than just thinking about what's going on inside the curbs, what's going on with the vehicle itself. It has so many implications for lives, livelihoods, quality of life, livability, et cetera. And to not take responsibility and internalize some of that consequence effects means it's just externalizing and having everyone else pick up the costs of that business operating in our communities and our society. So that's the reason for the idea, but we're asking for the task force to guide us a little bit better on what the consequence and impact would be, which would help us figure out if there should be a fee and how much it should be.
Senator Jasinski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No real comment on that. Again, I think we're making this overburdensome. We're going to prevent technology from doing great things for a lot of disabled people, a lot of people who can't drive cars, and it just seems like we're adding on fee after fee, and just disregarding what technology can bring to us. So, thank you.
Anybody else have comments on the A7? Senator Nelson.
I just have a broader comment. I just want to make sure I understand. After the committee studies this, I assume the recommendations come back to this committee for vote up or down. I do not believe we're giving away our authority to any type of committee. I just want to be clear about that.
Senator Dibble?
Thank you. That's a great question, Senator Nelson. The legislature never gives up its authority, in my opinion, ever. And so in that sense, the answer to your question is no. There is not an affirmative requirement that whatever the regulatory scheme is, it has to specifically come back to the legislature for ratification. We can do that, though. I'd be open to that idea. The work of the task force is advisory to Department of Transportation, Department of Public Safety. It's not, they in and of themselves as non-public people we don't delegate public authority to them. We invest that authority in the Commissioner of Public Safety, the Commissioner of Transportation, and we of course always have the opportunity to pass laws and regulations and et cetera.
Senator Nelson.
Thank you. That answers my question. I just want to make sure that the advisory group does not determine the outcome. Advises.
Correct.
Thank you.
Senator Jasinski.
Madam Chair, just our conversation in your office, to my understanding, the advisory group makes the recommendations, then it goes to MnDOT, and then MnDOT makes the recommendation. It does not come back here again. Correct. So MnDOT would make the determination based on the advisory group, and then it does not come back in front of this committee. MnDOT would make those recommendations. They would put the policy in effect, basically like a rulemaking authority. We would not have a second crack at this after the advisory committee, is to my understanding.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Senator Dibble.
I think I said that. Maybe Senator Jasinski said it better. All right.
All right. All in favor of adoption of the A7, say aye.
Oh, sorry, aye.
All opposed?
Sorry.
Nay.
No.
The motion is not successful. The motion does not prevail. I've never had that happen before. All right.
I was just a little slow on it. I'm sorry.
But did you see how fair I was?
Absolutely.
All right. Who's got another amendment? I know we have stacks. Senator Hemmingson-Yager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The A19, please.
Right. Members, Senator Hemmingson-Yager offers the A19, which I do not see in our packet. Oh, okay. Just had to look farther. So the A19 is offered by Senator Hemmingson-Yager. Senator Hemmingson-Yager, to your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just kind of adding some things based on some of the feedback we got from some of the testifiers, just looking at like the data, looking to be more holistic on all road users. So just really being more collaborative and adding in some comments that were good feedback from stakeholders.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would support the A19. I think these ideas were picked up from some of the testimony and as well as in some of the letters. Making sure that they're interacting safely with all road users, making sure that there's really good travel data so we know exactly what the effect is on how these vehicles are being used, helps transportation planners make better decisions about congestion and all the things that kind of data informs in terms of investment, response, et cetera. There was a suggestion that I think these are actually all electric vehicles, but just making sure of that. Again, a suggestion about consequence and effect on transit, that's picked up on line 13. The question about fees is sent to the advisory task force. If we need, similar to the previous conversation we just had, offsetting some of the consequences of instituting what might be a massive new form of transportation in our communities, and whether or not that a fee should be assessed on a per mile basis versus a flat basis. Again, studying it to get information.
All right, does anybody have any comments on the A19, Senator Farnsworth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering, lines 1.3 to 1.5 talks about demonstrating that the autonomous vehicle interacts safely. I'm just wondering what would be the description of that? Like, if they get in one accident every 100,000 miles traveled, that's considered safe, or is it compared with human accident data? So I'm just wondering how that's defined.
Senator Hemmingson Yeager, do you have a response? He asked about line 1.3 and what constituted safety.
Back over here too, just a second.
So Madam Chair, maybe Mr. Watson.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you. Maybe Mr. Watson can help us, but
Yeah.
we do have some, so that's a part of the independent safety verification, and they work in conjunction with the Commissioner of Public Safety to make some of those determinations and assertion of what constitutes safe operation. One of the key elements is that it's done through an independent entity that can help with that analysis and make that determination.
Mr. Watson, do you have anything to add? Is that adequate? Senator Farnsworth, does that satisfy your question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm also just wondering if somebody can answer. Again, I've said I don't know that much about Waymo or any of these. I guess we're just assuming that it's Waymo. The line, every autonomous vehicle operating on demand must be on all electric. Is that already the case, or are there some that are gas operated? I'm just wondering if how this is done in other states.
Senator Dibble, do you know the answer to that?
My general impression, although I cannot speak authoritatively, is that they are electric vehicles.
Senator Farnsworth, do you have any follow-ups? Okay. Any other questions on the A19? Senator Jasinski?
Madam Chair, not a question, just again, a continued comment. It's death by regulation in Minnesota. I mean, this is just one more thing that's just going to prevent these AV companies from coming. It's just one more. It just continues on the regulation we're seeing. This isn't just in automated vehicles. This is statewide and so many other departments. Death by regulation, and these companies, given all these regulations, are just not going to come to Minnesota. They're not going to provide services to the people that need them, the disabled people. There's epilepsy. All these people that could benefit from these vehicles and this technology with these amendments like this are just going to stop companies from coming to Minnesota, and it's disappointing.
Senator Hemmingson Yeager, do you have any final words before you vote on your amendment?
Just appreciate the support as we listen to people with their concerns.
All right. All in favor of the A19 amendments signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion prevails. What is the word I'm supposed to say? The motion prevails. All right. Members, do we have another amendment? Senator Farnsworth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to offer the A13 amendment.
Senator Farnsworth offers the A13. Members, this is in your packets. Senator Farnsworth to the A13.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This just changes the dates from 2028 to 2027. One of the things, as I said in our last hearing, where the gentleman with epilepsy was sharing his story about how he can't run to the store for his wife to get milk or whatever, and what a life-changing thing these vehicles would be for him. I just want to see this happen a lot quicker than it seems to be happening. So, and so it just cuts a year off from 28 to 27, and maybe I'll bat 500 today, and this will be considered a friendly amendment.
Thank you, Senator Farnsworth. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would resist the A13 amendment. I'll be voting no, because I do think that this is going to take a little bit of time to work through. As I've indicated, and done a lot of reading, a lot of research on the actual safety of these vehicles. I think the claims are overstated in terms of their safety and their efficacy and their consequence, as we learned in the hearing last week, is much. The implications are much greater than I had even thought about as recently as a few months or a year ago. And so I think we really need to understand what might be occurring on our streets, not just in terms of the safety of the vehicles, but how exactly they're going to be operating and circulating, and what their implications are for the larger public good. And I think that's going to take a lot of time to work through.
Any feedback or comments about the A13? Members? Senator Farnsworth, anything more?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, since I can kind of see where the vote on this will go, I think I'll save everybody the time and withdraw the A13 amendment.
Senator Farnsworth withdraws the A13 amendment. Members? Senator Jasinski.
Madam Chair, I'm bound and determined to get one of these amendments on today, so here we go. I'd like to offer the A14 amendment.
Senator Jasinski offers the A14 amendment. I believe it's in your, it's right here. Senator Jasinski to the A14.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This goes to the advisory group, and I do want to appreciate Senator Dibble adding the minority party into this prior to getting here in the A5. That was something we appreciate. What this would do would add a few more members, actually 5. So it'd be 5 representatives. The community insert, one appointed by the Speaker of the House Representatives, one appointed by the Minority Leader of the House Representatives, one appointed by the Senate Majority Leader, and one appointed by the Senate Minority Leader. This would bring more business people the option to be on this committee, giving more business input to how this would affect businesses across the 7-county metro area and the entire state, to be in fact. But so I think we can get this A14 passed. I think Senator Dibble is going to be open to this one. I have a feeling.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you. I would view the A14 as a friendly amendment.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. I have to say, after coming off the EV task force, it was nice to have so many community members, so I would also encourage members to support this amendment. Any other comments on the A14? All in favor of the A14 signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. Oh. All right, you got one. Woot, woot.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right.
Again, I only got 15 more to go.
All right,
Maybe we'll get some
Senator
more.
Jasinski, lay it on us. What else do you have for amendments?
Madam Chair, I'd offer the A8 amendment. I got to find it here.
Senator Jasinski offers the A8 amendment. Senator Jasinski, to your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What this would do would change the annual applications to 4 years with a 2-year probationary period. So this would balance making sure the systems work and have an annual review in the first couple years, but then after that it'd be a 4-year renewal. So with that, I'd ask for Senator Dibble's support.
Senator Dibble, what do you think?
1 moment. So Madam Chair, this is actually something that probably should go to the study group for, for advice. So this is what I'll do. I'll support the amendment at this time, but with the caveat that what might happen is what I might advocate that we do at a later stop or sometime in the the process. Oh, just to answer your question from earlier, Senator Jasinski, no bill has emerged yet from the House committee. So, so should we get into conference, maybe we'll take this language and lift it out from this section and put it into the study group section. So why don't we just go ahead and accept the A8 now, and to hang on to the idea, and then maybe push it to a point further back into the bill at some point in the future.
All right, so when you accept it, that means we still have to vote on it, though,
Yes.
right? All right, so any members have any feedback additional on the A8? All right, all members in favor of the A8 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, the A8 is adopted. You're 2 for 12, Senator Jasinski. Okay,
Madam
not
Chair,
12,
I'm just
but-
gaining momentum here.
All right.
So hopefully-
Anybody want to go and before Senator Jasinski hogs the floor again? All right, Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next one I'd like to offer, A21. I am eliminating some, just so people out in the audience do know. I am getting a little bit more selective, so I'm trying to get things moving here, but I got a
All
couple
right.
more that I'd like to try. So the A21.
Senator Jasinski offers the 821. Of course, you have it in your packet. Senator Jasinski, to your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yes, I did want to make sure these were all posted so that Senator Dibble and you knew all about it. This would do would bring the automated vehicles in line with the TNCs as far as the insurance. So this would lower the additional insurance requirement from $10 million, which I believe is excessive, to $1.5 million, which I believe, to my understanding, lines up with the TNC requirements.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would resist the going from 10 to 1.5. I don't know if 10 is perfect or not. I think 1.5 is too low. I don't agree with the 1.5 for the TNCs. The reason we peg the 10 at so high is, again, it's very, very much unproven technology. We see the Waymos. I concede a lot of what we read about in the paper are one-off stories, but they're significant to pay attention to because there's so many instances where Waymos do really, really wild things, like driving on train tracks or driving through crime scenes or, blocking ambulances and things like that. And so some things that would never, ever happen if a human was driving. So that's why we thought the level of risk just seems that much greater. I know that Waymo puts out a lot of information about how much safer they are, but they're safer in fairly confined areas and fairly confined and controlled circumstances. But there's myriad of one-off, 1 in 1,000, 1 in a million instances where they just don't know how to respond and react. And so that's what that 10 million is reflective of. Might not be magic, and maybe something we absolutely do need to move back further in the bill for study and recommendation. And so I'm open to that.
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple comments, and again, so if this would get put in, it actually incentivizes human drivers to drive more dangerously because they know if they run into a Waymo, then they're going to have a larger insurance item there. But again, just talking about it again, I thought we'd bring it in line with TNCs, and I think to my phone a friend, I think this double what the amount California would even have. So that's what I understand. So Minnesota, again, is going to be now double what even California requires for insurance. So again, death by regulation, again, is my concern here, that we're stopping all people to have the benefit of technology. And with that, I'll withdraw the A21.
Senator Jasinski withdraws the A21. More amendments. Senator Farnsworth has an amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't. I actually just wanted to respond to Senator Dibble's statement that no one would ever dream about driving on a railroad track. I'm not admitting to anything here, but I think it's probably happened that people have driven on a railroad track before.
Noted. Other amendments, members?
Madam Chair,
Senator Jazinski.
I would offer the A24 amendment.
Senator Jazinski offers the A24 amendment. Senator Jazinski, to your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe this adds another AV company to the task force, and someone from MnDOT's CAV office be on the task force as well. So we're not just exclusively one. I think two is better than one. So for automated vehicle companies, not relying just on one company for the input, we could actually have the input of two, along with our great MnDOT AV CAV office.
All right, Senator Dibble, what do you think?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll accept the A24 as friendly. With this caveat, I think at some point we'll take a look at the entire roster of folks who have a seat at this table to make sure we've got balance of perspective and interest, and we're not tilting this in one way or another. I just think that's really important. But I will definitely take the A24 as friendly.
All right, members all in favor of the A24 signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion prevails. All right.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Senator
It's
Jasinski.
5:15, and that was my goal. I'm going to put it to a stop because we have to run caucus upstairs, but I'll offer the A22.
Senator Jasinski offers the A22. Senator Jasinski, to your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What the A22 would require the task force report to go to the Transportation Committee and the reference library. The Legislative Reference Library keeps records of these reports, and it's important for the public that it's easy to access and find these other reports.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The A22 is a friendly amendment.
All right, members, any other comment on the A22? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The A22 is adopted. I have some amendments, but I can't find them. Well, it's the last one that you just gave. I think that's the A25. All right. The A25. Well, we can do the A25 because we have that, but I thought I had another stack. They all have to relate to the disability community. I think I left them all sitting there. They're in the packets. All right, members, passing out my A25 amendment. Oh, I see. Yep. It's not mine. All right, members, just to warn you, mine are the A17, the A18, the A25, and then was the A15. All right, can we just start over and start with the A15?
Sure. Madam Chair, do you want to hand the gavel? Maybe it's easier for you to be offering amendments. Maybe Senator Jasinski
Sure.
can chair.
Senator Jasinski, can you chair while I do these amendments?
Madam Chair, certainly.
All right.
Senator Johnson-Stewart, to your amendment.
All right, thank you, members. Senator Dibble, Chair Jasinski, hopefully everybody has the A15 in front of them. To be noted, all of my amendments come from members of the disabled community. I have a constituent who's extremely involved, and you may remember he was here on our initial hearing date, and he helped me craft these. So I offer the credit to him. But first, the A15, as you see, adds on page 12 to subdivision 9 a section on accessibility, reading that the commissioner, in consultation with the Governor's Council on Connected and Automated Vehicles and the Minnesota Council on Disability, must develop guidance or recommendations regarding accessibility standards, including digital accessibility standards for automated vehicles and automated vehicle services to ensure accessible and usable transportation options for individuals with disabilities. Again, this amendment was created in consultation with the Minnesota Council on Disabilities.
Senator Dibble to the A15.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Johnson-Stewart's amendment I would view as friendly.
Thank you. Members, questions on it? If not, then we'll vote. All those in favor of the A15 say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. No. Amendment passes. Senator Johnson-Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have the A17 also in your packets.
Senator Johnson Stewart offers the A17. Senator Johnson Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, as noted, this amendment was created in consultation with the Council on Disabilities, and it lays out an emergency protocol and passenger assistance criteria requiring that on-demand AV networks must equip each AV operating in its network with a system that is able to connect directly with emergency service providers in the event of an emergency, and that every AV network must have a protocol in place that describes how emergency services are contacted and the protocol for the response. And it also requires that an AV network must have a system to provide non-emergency physical assistance to a passenger in need of assistance at the beginning, during, or end of the ride, and the on-demand AV network must disclose the availability of the service and provide instructions for obtaining assistance within the online-enabled technology used to arrange the ride and in every vehicle operating in the network.
Senator Dibble to the A17.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would view the A17 as friendly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Just to comment again, death by regulation, we're just adding on more and more things. It's going to make it more difficult for these companies to operate here in Minnesota. So with that, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. No. Motion carries. A17 is adopted. Senator Johnson Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have two left. I have the A18 I'd like to cover next.
Senator Johnson Stewart offers the A18. She's just trying to outdo me here to get more passed than I did. I know it, but Senator Johnson Stewart.
I have an inside track. The A18 has to do with certain wheelchair-assisted vehicles, and it lays out, or it specifies the definition of a wheelchair-accessible vehicle that is an autonomous vehicle operated as part of an on-demand autonomous vehicle network. And it just describes what a wheelchair accessible vehicle is, easy for me to say. And then in subdivision 9, it says at all times an on-demand autonomous vehicle network, at all times that an on-demand autonomous vehicle network operates wheelchair accessible vehicles that constitute more than 10% of the total number of autonomous vehicles operating in this vehicle. The registration taxes owed under the section that applies are reduced by 50%. So in other words, it provides an incentive for having wheelchair accessible autonomous vehicles. And that was very hard to read. I hope you understood what I was saying.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The A18, I will accept provisionally. So I'll accept as friendly, and let's put it in the bill. I do want to have more conversation. I mean, I understand the intent is to create a financial incentive for inclusion of wheelchair accessible vehicles in these networks. However, there is a tax implication and also a trip to tax committee that this probably implies. So,
yeah.
We want to figure out if that's what we want to do. Yet at this time, this might be something that we can send to the study committee for some recommendation.
Senator Dibble, do you want me to orally or change my amendment so we don't have to worry about that?
Why don't we put it on, and we can just to hang on to the idea, and we can look at it more at a future point in time.
I'm being counseled that it may not be concerning.
Senator, so are you withdrawing it, or you want to ask for a pass or ask for a vote?
Senator Dibble, Mr. Chair, I'm being told that this is registration fees and not taxes.
Okay.
So I'd like to keep the amendment.
Well, you know how it is. Sometimes it's fees or taxes, taxes or fees, so you
Yeah.
never know. Okay, so why don't we put it on, and we'll just continue to talk about it and see if it should be something we put off to study later.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Madam Chair, I'm sorry, Senator Johnson Stewart. All these roles keep rolling around here, which is fine. But
It's a merry-go-round, so I'd like to keep my A18 amendment and have you vote on it, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I better accept one of these because we got to work bipartisan. So I'll agree with the 18 and vote in favor of it. So with that, members on the 18, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. The A18 is adopted. Senator Johnson Stewart.
All right, the last one, and I want members to note that this used to be the A16 amendment, so you haven't had as much time to look at it. We did change it slightly, so I understand if there's questions about this one. This, the A25 relates to the number or the method by which autonomous vehicle networks provide accessible vehicles. Again, if you need time to digest it, I understand. This specifies that on-demand AV networks with between 40 and 60 AVs operating must have at least 2 wheelchair accessible vehicles at all times. An on-demand AV network with over 60 operating in its network must maintain a total number of wheelchair accessible vehicles that constitute at least 10%. And then this part has recently been added. If an on-demand autonomous vehicle network cannot provide a wheelchair accessible vehicle, the network must direct the request to a provider of wheelchair accessible vehicles. And for that purpose, wheelchair accessible vehicle means a motor vehicle that is equipped to allow a person to enter and exit independently or with assistance while seated in a wheelchair. And so I do want to explain that this would be part of that emergency type response and communication. If in fact somebody in a smaller network needs a wheelchair vehicle and they don't have one, that we still require that one be provided. That's the intent of the amendment. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Johnson Stewart. Senator Dibble to the A25.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Johnson Stewart, for the A25. I would accept this as friendly.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I think the A25 is an improvement over the A16, so thank you for that. Once again, still another regulation, my concern, but with that, members in A20.
Senator Farnsworth.
I'm sorry, I missed you over there. Senator Farnsworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Johnson Stewart. I'm just wondering where these ratios came from. Like, was there a study that you are able to reference that said you need this number of vehicles for people that are in wheelchairs versus not?
Senator Johnson Stewart.
Senator Farnsworth, I don't know. We worked with industry, and my understanding is this is typical. I would trust the information I was provided, but maybe I should have verified it. I actually don't know. Senator Dibble, do you know the answer to that question?
I do not.
I think it's standard, and whether it's adequate or not, I think we may need to verify that.
Senator Farnsworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, I think that the 2 accessible vehicles, between 40 and 60 sounds reasonable, but then when you get to the 10%, it seems like a lot to me unless there's some sort of research that would indicate otherwise. So,
Senator Johnson Stewart. No.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and I'm not sure how to proceed. Senator Dibble, do you have counsel for me?
I would say that this is, again, one of those items that we can put into the bill to hang on to the idea, but maybe it's push it back to section, is it section 6, to the advisory task force to give us some more advice on what pegging it at the right amount.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Dibble and Senator Farnsworth. I think you bring up a good point.
Okay. Senator Johnson, so you said you worked with industry. Which industry or what?
The autonomous vehicle industry and those researchers at MnDOT.
Okay, thank you. And I missed part. So we want to vote on the A25. Is that my understanding? Okay. Members, A25. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
I'm out of amendments.
A25 is adopted, and you can have the gavel back, Madam Chair.
All right, members, are there any other amendments? We have some in front of us, but I'm not sure what to do with them. Senator Dibble, do you have any more amendments? All right, so I believe then now we vote on to pass the bill through to judiciary. Senator Dibble, do you have a motion you want to make about that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members, for, again, and everyone in the public for a great kind of opening conversation on a really, really big issue. So I would move Senate file number 4618 to be recommended to pass as amended and be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Senator Nelson.
Mr. Is it just possible to make a brief comment?
Certainly.
Vote on this. You know, I just want to say how I appreciate the thoughtful nature of the bills that we've had and the amendments and the discussion, but I am incredibly disappointed that the advisory group is not coming back to the legislature. I mean, we should be, I think that's our job, is to actually vote on on what things we want to accept out of that advisory group. So I just want to register that I'm incredibly disappointed that I think the legislature is being sidelined here, although I understand it sounds like it's already the practice in this case, but it's disturbing to me. Thank you.
Senator Dibble, do you have any feedback?
Thank you. I appreciate that very much, Senator Nelson. And maybe you and I can talk about what that might look like. And maybe at the next stop or some subsequent stop, we can effectuate that the work product comes back for legislative review and ratification, or whatever we want to call it. Thanks.
Members, any other comments? Senator Jasinski?
Thank you, Senator Johnson-Stewart, and thank you, Senator Dibble, for working with us on this bill. Again, we have obviously disagreements on certain portions of this, but again, the relationship that we have in this committee and the good discussion we have, I do really appreciate. And there's one final question, seeing as we got through the agenda today, I'm understanding and hoping that Friday's meeting is null and void and that we don't have to do that, or is there another items we have to address on Friday?
Senator Dibble.
Oh, except we were going to try to get through a few bills really quickly to get up to the floor after we conclude this.
So we're not adjourned yet?
Not quite, yeah.
Okay, that's right, I forgot.
Yeah, we're going to try to
So hold your horses, members, so we don't have to come back
But to answer your question about Friday, as far as I know, unless something gets referred to us from another committee that we have to deal with, we would not be meeting on Friday, but there's nothing pending in our wheelhouse at this point.
But you're coming back here because we have more bills.
Yeah, just to go through very quickly, take some bills that have been laid over that we can send up as standalones to the floor. All right.
Okay, well, with that, Senator Dibble has moved the passage of 4618 to pass to judiciary. Members, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? I think it carries. And Senator Dibble, I will hand you back your gavel.
All right, so very quickly, we'll try to get through a series of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bills to get them up to the floor as standalones. The first is Senate File 4273, Senator Hoffman State Patrol Compensation Study as amended. Senator Jasinski, would you like to move that bill to the floor?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. The second bill is Senate File 3987, Senator Johnson-Stewart's DVS agency bill having to do with a number of subjects, including vehicle titles. Senator Johnson-Stewart, would you like to move your bill to the floor?
So moved.
So just to make it formal, Senator Johnson-Stewart.
Sorry.
I'll do so, that's fine. Senator Johnson-Stewart moves Senate File 3987 be recommended pass and referred to the Senate floor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed no. Motion carries.
Thank you, Senator.
It's not there. Senator Johnson-Stewart has Senate File 3985, the school bus policy modifications bill. We thought we might remove the parts that have passed, but does it matter? No, okay. So, I mean, there are elements of that bill that have passed, but it doesn't matter. We can either take those out on the floor. It doesn't matter if we pass them twice either. So Senator Johnson Stewart moves Senate File 3985 be recommended to pass and be referred to the Senate floor. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. I will move my Senate File 3824, but I did want to make an amendment to that, and that would take out the elimination of the various reports. Not that I'm necessarily opposed to that. I just felt like, and I just, we haven't had the time to really delve into which of those reports we do want to sunset and eliminate. So we might revisit that should we have a conference committee on this particular subject. So I would move the A1 amendment to Senate File 3824. We did print Senate File 3824. It's in front of everyone, and just to be in good form. Yeah, did we print the bill itself? Oh, okay. Do we want to see the bill before we move it up to the floor and make an amendment to it? It's just that section that sunsets all the various MnDOT reports.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, we haven't seen the bill for a while, so I'm trying to, there's quite a few reports that are expiring.
Right.
Ms. Wick could come up and comment on that if she has a comment, because I remember her having some discussion on that. So if she could just make a comment on that.
Well, if you object, we can just move the bill up as is, and we don't need to take the A1. I can just withdraw the A1.
Okay, if you do that, just we'll move it on. We can have further discussion.
I will move Senate File 3824, be recommended to pass and be referred to the Senate floor. All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed say no. Motion carries. Oops, keep tapping the wrong thing. And then I have Senate File 2971. I will move Senate File 2971. That has to do with suicide prevention measures for bridges as amended. Be recommended to pass and be referred to the Senate floor. All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed say no. Motion carries. And the last one is Senate File 1373. Senator Limmers, criminal vehicular homicide, criminal vehicular operation. What is CVO? Anyways, whatever that is. Remember the discussion about suspending a driver's license that ultimately might result in a revocation. I would move an amendment, and this is with Senator Limmer's knowledge and agreement. It's the question that I asked when he was here. He subsequently came to me and said he would accept the elimination of the part that does not allow for credit for the time of the initial driver's license suspension to count against the ultimate full period of revocation. So, and he was agreeable to that, and he was informed. And I told him on the floor we'd be doing this today too. So I move the A2 amendment to Senate File 1373.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to trust you on this one. So
all right.
I know you wouldn't go against me, so thank you.
Very good.
Vote in favor.
All in favor of the A2 amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. So, Senator Jasinski, do you want to move Senate File 1373 as amended, be recommended to pass and sent to the Senate floor? Ms. Boyd, did you have a? Oh, okay.
So moved.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. With that, members, sure. That would go to finance. All right. So,
Mr. Chair.
All right. Senator Jasinski.
I just got a reminder. My tow truck bill, how about that one? Is that one going on the floor too?
Okay. Yes.
The light one, the reading.
I'm sorry, I jumped over it. I totally missed it. So Senator Jasinski moves Senate File 3888. Tow trucks permission to use variable message signs be recommended to pass and be referred to the Senate floor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. With that.
Thank you, and thank you for the notes.
Oh, Senator Nelson.
I don't have the number, but I'm going to mention the bill because I was just thinking, this might be the end for it. Mr. Chair, one of my bills, which I'll be glad to look up the number or somebody here can, actually allows each branch of our military to have a license plate. 40 other states do it. And anyway, I believe, though, that our policy now is that those have to be not a cost to the state. So my question to you is if that can be referred to the floor, since there's no cost to the state. And I have the bill number, Mr. Chair, 395, Senate File 395.
All right. But we haven't had a hearing on the bill, Senator Nelson, is that correct?
That's true.
All right. So I would be reluctant to send up a bill that we've heard all these bills and had a conversation about them. So they're just kind of, they're sitting, we had laid them over. But I will commit to working with you creatively to see what we can do when we come back from break on this subject.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
That'd be wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, well, military plates are a little different than so.
Mr. Chair.
Senator.
How about the Rethos Main Street license plate too? I know there's quite a few of them out there.
Well, there's like 35.
As long as you open the, the can of worms here, we might as well talk about it.
Maybe someday those chairs are going to be completely rolled and we're going to send 45 specialty license plates all in one package to the, so, and then no one's going to make any money from these plates. All right, anything further? All right, hopefully we won't see you on Friday and we'll see you after the break. Have an amazing break. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We are adjourned.